Stories. Okay, nobody else remembers any stories that you want to share? Okay. So, three rishis, they have different kind of origins. And so this session is more about, remembering about these three rishis, because in a way, deeper understanding about secrets about these three rishis in itself is going to bring some clarity about something in your own life. So hang on to that thought. The thought is that, a memory of these three rishis is going to kindle something beautiful in all of us. Yeah? Okay. So, B.V. Raman, who is a very famous astrologer from Bangalore, he has written several books, and many people have read his publications, So he, when his children, when he got older, his children asked him, teach us something, some secret about astrology, because you are such an accomplished astrologer. And what he said was, if you want to be a good astrologer, meditate. So he didn't share any specific technique. He said, meditate. Why meditate? Because most astrologers, whether they admit or not, they rely on their intuition capability. So why not explore intuition? What is this intuition when it comes to the topic of astrology, and how did people make sure that they have good intuition in the past? And so this session about the three rishis is going to be touching on this aspect, what does it mean to have good intuition about a specific aspect of one's life? Okay, so all of us, we know about the Rashi chart. Rashi chart is called, in the West, it's recognized as the horoscope. The very word horoscope comes from hora and scope. Hora is a Sanskrit word which is aho ratri. Short form of ahoratri is hora, and horoscope is because it's having something about hora. So before we get into this Rashi chart, of course, we know has got 12 Rashis, 12 divisions, and there are planets or grahas placed in one of the 12 charts based on the position that the planet occupies in the night sky, right? When a person is born, or when a person goes to an astrologer to get a prediction about some question, something like that. So the starting point is the Rashi chart. So there is a system of astrology which is called the Parasara Hora Shastra. Parasara Hora Shastra is very popular text which is studied by astrologers from all over, and everybody who studies it is like, they're amazed by the clarity of techniques, the amount of material that, the Parasara Hora Shastra covers. Yeah. But before getting into it, let us understand who is Parasara. Who is Rishi Parasara? So according to tradition, Parasara is the grandson of Vasishta. Vasishta is one of the 7 Saptarishis. So Vasishta's son is Shakti. So Shakti's son is Parashara, and the story goes how Parashara gained all this ability is based on the story that Parashara was born and his father was no more, because there was some incident prior to that. There are different variations of the story, but nutshell is that, the Rakshasas were the cause of the death of his father Shakti. So Parashara's father Shakti died because of Rakshasas. So Parashara, when he became, older, and he has mastered his basic studies, he came to know about this incidents, and he became very angry with the Rakshasas. So he started conducting a yajna, and in the yajna he was going to bring destruction to all the Rakshasas. So very soon his grandfather who brought him up, who is the grandfather?
Vasishta.
Vasishta came to know, and he came to him and he said, what you're doing is not right. I understand your turmoil, I understand your sentiment, but we cannot do this on a general basis. The persons who was responsible, they belong to the Rakshasa category, but you cannot bring destruction to the whole clan. And so Parashara, even though it was difficult for him to accept it emotionally, he said, okay, my grandfather is telling me, so I will stop hating the Rakshasas. And he stopped hating them. So pleased with this, another Saptarishi by name Pulastya, and we'll also see a little bit about Pulastya later. Pulastya came there and blessed Parashara with lots of powers. And he said, you will have deep intuitive powers, and specifically with these intuitive powers, you are going to be able to write many Puranas and also other gifts. So over a period of time, Parashara started his school, and in his school there was a student called Maitreya, and the conversation between Parashara and Maitreya is captured as Parasara Hora Shastra. So in the 1800s, the Parasara Hora Shastra was assembled together, gathered together by somebody, and what they gathered is 11,000 verses. 11,000 verses, and so it is a voluminous book on the science of Jyotish, and so it is called the Parasara Hora Shastra. The unique aspect of Parasara Hora Shastra is the 12 Rashis that you see there behind me. It's subdivided. Each Rashi is subdivided, and so this is a division technique is called the Varga method. The Varga method. So majority of astrologers in India, majority of Westerners who learn Vedic Jyotish, they all study this technique, Varga method. What's the Varga method? It is subdividing the Rashi, 12 Rashis into subdivisions. So we'll see the first example of that in the next slide. Before that, just wanted to touch on three major sections in this Parasara Hora Shastra. There is something called a schema. A schema is very specific, and that is what makes the Jyotish a science. It is a science in the sense there are rules, and you can track these rules. You can see if somebody is sticking to the rule or not. And those in short, in Sanskrit, you would call it Ganit. So in English, roughly, you can say it is a schema. And then there is heuristics, Sanhita. Heuristics are what? Those are lots and lots of regulation, lots and lots of, you can say, like if then else kind of logic. So there are tons and tons of logic. Imagine 11,000 verses in the Parasara Hora Shastra, and then 9 grahas, planets, and 12 rashis. That creates 108 combinations, 108 permutations. So, and then there are permutations of effect between where the planets are located, friendship, enmity between planets, and all these combined together create heuristics or sanhita. So these are rules. So in modern times, these are perfect fit for creating software. So when you see any astrology software, what it means is they have taken all these if then else clause. Many of you here are computer IT people, so you understand this. So all these heuristics can be translated into software. So that's the second portion. And then the third one is Upaya, intuition, where you put your something beyond logic to come up with some predictions. And why do we go to astrologers? Even those who go to astrologers, we have some issue and we want to see a solution. We have an issue, maybe we want to see when that solution will come, or we want to see when the problem will get solved by itself, right? So we go there for Upaya. How do I lessen the impact of something going on? How do I completely resolve it? So let's see an example of Varga with the case of Hora division, which means subdividing a Rashi into two parts. When you subdivide a Rashi into two parts, each part is called a Hora. Hora means 1 hour division. Okay, subdivide the houses. And when you subdivide the house, the graha or the planet is going to be either in the first subdivision or the second subdivision, right? So what do you do with it? What do you do with once you subdivide? Do you create a chart which is 24 divisions? We don't do that. So what we do is we shuffle the grahas or the planets into the same 12 divisions. The way we do it is generally planets in the first subdivision stay wherever they are. Planets in the second and the subsequent divisions, we have to move them into an appropriate different place. So this is sort of the main corollary. So you subdivide the Rashis, and the first subdivision planets stay wherever, and the planets in the other subdivisions have to move. And so there are rules about how you move. So in the case of the Hora division, where you're subdividing a Rashi into two subdivisions, it represents wealth. Anything related to your wealth, any issues with wealth, astrologers will consult the second or the subdivision into two. Hora subdivision. So what is the heuristics about it? Heuristics is based on the logic that the first hora belongs to Surya, or the solar energy, not Surya as a planet, Surya as energy, and Soma as the energy. That is the second subdivision. So when we move it, the planet in the first subdivision will remain in that same Rashi. Planet in the second division, we move it one Rashi to the right side. So it's a very simple way of repositioning the planets into, and then what you get back is 12 divisions again. So the 12 divisions are now called 12 horas. 12 horas. Instead of calling it 12 rashis, after you have redistributed the planets, we call it the 12 horas. And even number hora division will be ruled by lunar energy, and odd numbered hora division will be ruled by solar energy. And then all the rules, heuristics will be based on if you have this planet with the solar energy and this with the lunar energy, this, and this. So then the prediction rules are based on only two principles. One is the solar energy or the lunar energy dominating. Yeah. Okay, so now if there is a wealth concern, of course, which is why clients go to astrologer, Parasara said a good astrologer who has got good intuition can give you the shortcut for fixing any problem. So again, repeat, Parasara said, a good astrologer can give you a shortcut to fix a problem, to clear a condition, and for that, they need to be closely in touch with two things. One is Devas, and second one is Pitrus. An astrologer who is closely in touch with Devas and Pitrus, you go to them about any wealth issues, then they will give you a solution right away. So it will not be a one-size-fits-all solution. It will be very, very individualistic. And this is where the software will fail, but a good astrologer will succeed. The software heuristics will all say the same thing. Two people having the same kind of a hora chart distribution, but then the astrologer will tell one solution for one person, another upaya for another person based on intuitive insight. That is the gift of Devas and Pitrus. So a little bit more about, hora subdivision. Jupiter, for example, takes 12 years to move around one circle, right? So Uttarayana and Dakshinayana will be the distribution point for Jupiter. Okay. Same thing for, not Uttarayana, yeah, that will be for Jupiter. And generally, sun takes 12 months. Each month has got a Shukla Paksha and Krishna Paksha. So, so based on where you are born, the sun's position, it will be either in the solar hora or the lunar hora. Same thing morning and night. And so it's sort of an example of how they distribute. What do you mean by connected to Devas and Pitrus? So when we talk about wealth, we are talking about the 8 Lakshmis, Ashtalakshmi here. So 8 kinds of wealth. Problem can be in any one of them. An astrologer who is very good with their Deva Puja, performing puja to Devas, and not only that, the Pitrus. Their Pitrus, they are capable of giving a good solutions, good upaya for wealth-related issues. So then we get into the third Hora division where we get to the 3 Rishis. Any questions about the technique?
One question, does the ascendant also play a role in the division?
Yes, absolutely. Same thing applies. Ascendant in the first subdivision will stay in that location. If ascendant is in second subdivision, it will move.
So same rule as in the planets.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, thanks.
So now that you know about who is a good astrologer, or nowadays what happens, there is software, right? And we can plug the numbers in, we can put the dates in. And then the software gives you all the combinations, all those things. So using the software, you know what is causing you the issue, right? Technically, anybody can, use that app or software to find out what is causing the issue in my life right now with respect to wealth, for example. But then my point is that, just like in olden times, if the astrologer needed to be very thorough with those 2 things, Devas and Pitrus, if we take that app and take a prediction out of the app, for Upaya purpose, we need to be connected with the Devas and Pitrus also. So that is my hypothesis. So with that hypothesis, we are going to the next one, meaning that, I have the app, I am able to see where my self-effort is failing. And if I am able to be connected more to the 3 Rishis that, which we are going to discuss rest of the session, if I am connected very closely with them, then through their blessing, through their grace, I get intuitive insights. Does it make sense? You can put an emoji if it makes sense to you. Yes? No emojis? Good, I got one. I will move along. Self-effort. Actually, in modern text, it has become younger sibling. So the self-effort which Parasara emphasizes in the Parasara Hora Shastra, now, you take an app, what you will see is predictions regarding your younger sibling. Is done through Drekkana. Drekkana is the third, so dividing Rashi into 3 parts. Why younger sibling? How are younger sibling and self-effort connected? So if you notice, if you are the firstborn and if you have a younger sibling, you will notice your attitude towards them was very different as compared to elders. Everybody other than that new sibling who came into your life, is different. They are sort of like they rule over you in a sense. Even though it's not true, kids rule over their parents. But from a kid's viewpoint, parents are dictating terms. So they are part of they are dictating my destiny. But the younger sibling is the first opportunity where you explore life as, oh, this is up to me, what I do, right? It's very true. So the self-effort and younger sibling, they are all both of the same nature, Drekkana. Heuristics about Drekkana is mobile, static, and dual nature. So just like heuristics for the Hora subdivision was solar energy, lunar energy, right? So heuristics for Drekkana is mobile, static, and dual nature. So it means after you redistribute the planets using whatever method that we discussed before, same method, if a planet is in the first place, first Drekkana, then it has got mobility to it. So there is more mobility associated with that sign. If it is in the second, then it is more static, stable, robust. That's the nature. And if it's in the third, then it has got sometimes stable, sometimes mobile. So that is what the subdivisions represents: mobile, static, and dual. So using the three properties, mobility, static, and dual nature, prediction rules are presented. So you will see a whole lot of rules which can be put into software, if then else kind of thing. And then the app can spit out something about okay, younger sibling, through younger sibling, you will have this kind of thing, this kind of advantage, all that, the software will predict. But then you see, somewhere your self-effort is not going anywhere. You seem to be putting a whole lot of self-effort. It is like going a waste. So if you go to an astrologer and consult, a good astrologer will give you a short upaya, which is not very complicated, very simple, but it will be from an intuition which is guided by three Rishis, Narada, Agastya, and Durvasa. So that is why we are discussing the stories about Narada, Agastya, and Durvasa. Questions?
I have one question. Whether it's the 1/2 division or 1/3 division, it's pretty coarse-grained, right? In terms of roughly either 15 degrees or 10 degrees of a Rashi. And
That's
so,
right.
so when it comes to twins, it seems like they'll result in the same division at that granularity. And so has someone done a study to see the Drekkana division, younger sibling? I mean, I don't know how you look at that with the twins. Maybe there is still a bit of elder, younger there, but if it's wealth or, I mean, for instance, do twins typically have the same wealth profile?
Yeah, so you are right. The twins will have more or less the same Hora division, more or less the same Drekkana division. They will have up to I think the 27th division is where they will start having, change. And then when the finest is the 60, where they'll be different. And 60 is about past karma. So, so if you have to go down deep, so all these will be very similar. But however, what we are discussing here is if twins, they have the exact same Drekkana, they go to the astrologer for one, the astrologer might say, go to the stream in the northeast portion of the village and take a dip there, and that is your Upaya. For another one, it might say, you have to give away 50 cows. Same Drekkana, but different Upayas.
So what other factor influences that then?
Intuition. Yes. So this is the fine point that, in Parasara Hora Shastra that, Parasara makes, and, towards the end, the last half an hour, they'll get little bit more into the history of how this text was reclaimed, how it was gathered together and all that, which may not be, it might be too intense for everybody, but towards the last half an hour, we'll get into it. So now, any other questions? Okay. Narada. If you really see Narada's stories, he is the first being to reject destiny. So this goes to the story of Narada's birth. So just like the Sapta Rishis are mind-born sons of Brahma, Narada was also a mind-born son of Brahma. So when Narada was ready to get into existence, he chose to defy what Brahma had as his role. All of you know the story. So he said, I like to enjoy this thing called state of liberated being. I do not want to get engaged in anything materialistic. So Brahma being he accepts everything the way it is, right? Brahma is the creator. So he said, I am disappointed, but so be it. Yeah. So that's the story. But then, it doesn't stop there. Narada not only enjoyed his liberated state, but the next set of beings who came into existence, the Sanat Kumaras, he goes to them and he also teaches them to be like him. He said, why do you want to get involved in this existence? Be pure. So the Sanat Kumaras are also like liberated beings from the beginning. And he didn't stop there. Daksha Prajapati started creating, he started having children. So Narada just went to them too, and then he started telling them, why do you want to get involved in this creation? And Daksha got very angry. And he said, I am going to give you a curse. You cannot be in one place for more than certain duration. So that made Narada mobile. So this is the fundamental nature of Narada. He has to move around. So he's son of Brahma. He is endowed with lots and lots of spiritual energy. He is liberated, but he has to be constantly on the move. So how did he make use of it? He said, never mind, I am going to have fun moving around. So wherever there was like, situation where he could start a trouble, he would go there and he would create trouble. Anybody wants to share one story of Narada being a prankster? No?
The mango story between Lord Muruga and Ganesha.
Okay.
Story goes that Narada only did the mischief between the two brothers.
Yes, yeah. So in the process, what happened?
Muruga got angry, Lord Muruga.
Yeah, and then?
Well, he left and he went to Palani, Malay. But why he did that, I do not know. I just know the story from small.
Yeah, he creates, ultimately it becomes benevolent for everybody. If you look at the beginning portion of the story, it will seem like, oh, it's cruel. Somebody is coming here and creating mischief. But eventually it turned out to be good, right? Murugan went to Payani and, he's still blessing people. Yeah. So that is one story. Any other story anybody wants to share? You can share it briefly like the way Usha shared. It's fun to hear from everybody something. Okay, so Narada is the prankster. So we'll go to Agastya. Agastya is the son of Pulastya. Agastya is son of Pulastya. Pulastya is one of the Saptarishis in the very beginning. Every Manvantara, like there is a new set of Saptarishis, and Pulastya is for the very beginning. So Pulastya and Vasishta are on the same level. So Pulastya's son is Agastya. Agastya is known for his meticulousness, very thorough. And other thing is known for his ability to ingest and digest things. It's a very unique thing. If you look at all the stories, you don't find any other Rishi like Agastya in terms of like his ability to digest things, ingest things. So there are two stories about Agastya. One is story of Vatapi. Anybody can recount it quickly? Vatapi's story? Story of Vatapi. Okay, while somebody thinks about it, I'll tell you the other story of he drank the ocean. So the story goes like, in olden times, the ocean had clear water, sweet water. And so there was a big war between Devas and Asuras. And the Asuras were getting defeated. And they wanted to recoup their energy. So they went and hid themselves in the ocean. They went and hid themselves in the ocean, and the Devas could not chase after them. And so they had to call Agastya to drain all the water. So Agastya came there and, he took one sip and all the water disappeared. And then the Devas defeated the Asuras. And then, of course, the Devas prayed to Agastya to release the water. And the released water is salty. And it is full of, life supporting. It's life supporting. So So that is the power of Agastya. So, you can think more about the story. It's a metaphor. The whole thing about the clear water ocean and the salty water ocean, these are all metaphors. They signify something different, and you can think about it, your homework for today. But the fact is that he consumed all of it, and then he made it even more suitable for life forms. So that is Agastya's greatness. Second one is Vatapi's story. Anybody thought about it? Who wants to share Vatapi's story? Nobody knows?
I don't know the exact details, but
Doesn't matter. Few words, yeah.
so I think he would Vatapi would be disguise himself like an animal, and he'd be offered by his associate to people to be eaten, and then he would be summoned back. And when he was summoned back, he would burst through the stomach and kill the person who ingested the meat. And then they would feast on the. So they tried this with I think Agastya, but he actually digested Vatapi. It was Vatapi who met his doom or something like that.
Yeah. So there is a metaphor in this story also, like his ability to digest. So the only other person in stories who is able to digest is actually Shiva, right? The poison, remember? Like Shiva drinks the poison, but he has to take the help of Shakti, Parvati, right? Parvati comes to his help to stop the poison in his throat. But in case of Agastya, he could digest any poison. So his text, many of you know about this. I am a serious researcher in the works and texts of Agastya. So, Agastya is known for the Tamil language, Siddha text that he has authored, and it's filled with so many different ways in which, you can find cures like that. So Agastya is a force which can digest anything and then just make it disappear. Hang on to this idea, Agastya. What's the idea about Narada? So we don't forget Narada before we move on. What's the key takeaway about Narada?
Mobile.
Mobile, being reparated.
Yeah, mobility, prankster, and he took things in his hand, didn't want the destiny given to him, right? Okay, so Agastya is digest anything, right? And then create more benevolence out of whatever is existing. Create more benevolence out of whatever is existing. Add something more. Third one is Durvasa. Durvasa, somebody shared a Durvasa story. Who shared it?
Me.
Okay. Durvasa's story. So Durvasa's origin of Durvasa is very funny story. He is the son of Atri Maharshi. Atri is also one of the Saptarishis on the same level as Pulastya and Vasishta. Atri is one of them. Atri and Anusuya are very well known for their unity, ability to work together, and so the story goes Anusuya's reputation spread far and wide, and the wives of the three Murtis, they became jealous of Anusuya. So there are variations of the story. So they put Anusuya to a test, and in the process, Anusuya makes the three Murtis into three little babies and feeds them. And after that, what happens is Atri and Anusuya are left with three babies, three children. And then the wives of the three Murtis, they are wondering what happened to our husbands. So they come and they fall at Anusuya's feet and they say, release our husbands back. And Anusuya says, well, what has been created cannot be undone. This is the nature of this existence. So, however, an amsha of your husbands will live on in these beings that have been created. These little children who have been, three children who have been created. So Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva went back, but their amsha remained back as three children, and those are Soma, Dattatreya, and Durvasa. And Durvasa is, of course, the amsha of Shiva. So he is noted for his anger. But he is also, because of Anusuya's intention, he is childlike. Same with the other two. They were also childlike, but they have the qualities of Brahma and Vishnu. But then Durvasa is childlike but angry. So this is what makes him very unique Rishi. Again, you don't find any other Rishi who is like contradictory like Durvasa is. So Durvasa is just like Narada. Narada creates confusion, right? He creates pranks, and in the process, something good happens. What does Agastya do? He digests and creates benevolence. What does Durvasa do? He curses and creates benevolence. So the first is churning of ocean. So I will let one of you share. Second one is Kunti's boon. So Kunti prayed to Durvasa. No, she didn't pray, but Durvasa was a guest when she was a small child. And Durvasa taught her the mantras from Atharva Veda. Select mantras from Atharva Veda, which guarantees Santana or progeny. And so she got that the five Pandavas were born from that boon. Churning of ocean, anybody wants to say how this whole thing started? Of course, Durvasa is behind this. No one knows the story? Okay, so I'll start with that. There was equal balance between Devas and Asuras in long time ago. And so the balance shifted towards the Devas. And Indra became arrogant. And Durvasa is a great devotee of Shakti. So he had conducted puja of Shakti and he had received a garland of blessing, and he came to the heavens and he gave the garland to Indra. So Indra, in his arrogance, he didn't respect the fact that he had received a garland which is blessed by Shakti, and it's also brought to him by Durvasa. And, in what do you call pramada? Pramada, he gave it to the elephant, his elephant. So the elephant, of course, was playful with it and threw it down on the ground, and it walked away. And Durvasa became angry and he cursed that you are going to lose your kingdom. So then the power shifted towards the Asuras. So Indra worshipped whatever he did, tapas, and then the solution was to churn the ocean. The curse was so powerful that, only Amrita could restore the balance between Devas and Asuras. So Durvasa is behind it. So by cursing, he brings benevolence. So from the ocean, what are the things that came up? What came out of the ocean?
Various gems.
Yes, yeah.
Gems, poison, goddess Lakshmi.
Goddess Lakshmi came, yeah.
Dhanvantri,
Yeah.
Dhanvantri came, yeah. So many nice things came out of it, right? And then the last story is, see, all these three rishis, they are also in the Itihasa text. Agastya, of course, comes in Ramayana, right? He is the one who taught. What did he teach Rama?
Aditya Hridayam.
Aditya Hridayam, yeah. And Agastya also brought out the Lalita Sahasranama Stotra, right? And Narada comes several times in the Mahabharata. And Durvasa comes in the Ramayana also. When Rama was ready to leave, he had a meeting with, any of you know this? He had a meeting with Yama. Yama came to Rama to give him the time, when he has to leave. And this was not the meeting when, he was going to take Rama away, but it was just a meeting and Lakshmana was guarding. And so Yama said, you should not make anybody enter. Then, of course, Durvasa comes and, and if Lakshmana let anybody enter, then, of course, it's going to be their death, right? So Lakshmana makes a conscious decision that, okay, this is my choice. And then, he leaves because of the, that condition. And then Durvasa goes in and he blesses Ramas to live longer, something like that. So you find Narada, Agastya, and Durvasa, all of them in the Itihasas, not only in the Puranas, but also in the Itihasas. So Durvasa, when he comes in Dwapara time, there is an interesting story. Some of you might know it. You might have heard it from Gurudev. At one point, Durvasa came and camped on the other bank of Yamuna, and the gopis wanted to go and take his blessings, and they wanted to feed him. He was known to be, foodie. He liked to eat food. He loved to eat food. So they prepared all kinds of food, and in their excitement, they forgot the fact that the Yamuna was flooded. And so they took everything to the banks and say, how are we going to cross the Yamuna now? So, of course, they went to Krishna and he said, go tell Yamuna, if Sri Krishna is a celibate, he is a brahmachari, he doesn't, he does not enjoy the company of women, ladies, then, you tell, Yamuna, then if this is true, then you have to make us cross this flood. So they go and tell it in innocence, even though they know that, he's a prankster for all the gopis. And then, of course, in their excitement that they have reached the other shore, they go and offer the food to Durvasa, and Durvasa is all happy with them and he blesses them. And now they come back and then they say, oh, we forgot, Yamuna is flooded. So how do we cross? And then they say those words, right? And it didn't work. So they go and tell Durvasa. Then Durvasa said, how did you cross this time? So they said, oh, this is what we were told. He said, okay, you tell Yamuna, if Durvasa has not touched food at all, he has been fasting from his birth, then you should make us cross the river. So that's what they say, and then they cross to the other shore. And then, they have an interesting conversation with Sri Krishna about this episode, which is captured in one of the 108 Upanishad. It is called Kali Santarana Upanishad. So it's a very interesting story about Durvasa. So Durvasa is not just